In this video, I'll walk you through the first couple of pages of my Option A revision pack so you can see how you should structure content and link it to your IB exams. These super high-quality notes are available for purchase. Option A is relatively light and very similar to Option D. You're doing three things: understanding water as a system, analyzing the causes and impacts of flooding, and evaluating management and conflict. For the best experience, have the notes in front of you, purchase link below. As always, I know you're waiting for the most tested themes. I went through every paper from 2010 to 2025, then ran them through chat using an exam analysis prompt I designed to identify the patterns that come up most frequently. Flooding is a core theme, tested repeatedly across papers. Expect questions on natural and human causes, challenges of prediction, and flood hydrographs, especially in 6-mark questions. Floodplain modification is another favorite, appearing in 5, 6, and 10-mark questions across at least 18 papers. Dams also feature heavily. You'll see questions requiring case studies, hydrological impacts, and clear evaluation of costs, benefits, and stakeholders. Be ready to assess dams. Tip: don't let the terms you've learned go to waste. Apply them directly in the exam. For example, when evaluating dams, think in terms of water quantity and water quality. Dams often increase water quantity by storing and regulating supply, but they can impact water quality downstream through issues like sedimentation or reduced oxygen levels. In a common 10-mark essay question, you're likely to be asked if you consider damming successful. Your stance depends on how you define what success means. Give an example of a successful dam that's met its objectives in regulating floods, providing a reliable source of water, and even generating power. Or you could go the other way and focus on a dam that has failed in a major way, where environmental, social, or economic costs outweigh the benefits. This allows you to argue that while dams may be effective in theory, in practice their success is highly context-dependent, often undermined by poor planning, sedimentation, ecosystem disruption, or large-scale displacement. Used well, a failed dam case study is a strong evaluative tool in 10-mark questions, especially when the command term asks you to evaluate or to what extent. Agriculture's impact on water quality is another recurring area, particularly in 3+3 questions. Focus on salinization, eutrophication, and irrigation impacts, which are all covered in detail in my full revision pack. Finally, hydrographs are non-negotiable. They appear consistently, including in papers as recent as 2024, so do not overlook them. Now let's start with basics. Drainage basins. A drainage basin is simply the land area where all precipitation, rain, snow, hail, even dew, flows into a single river system. It's a local hydrological cycle, with precipitation as the primary input and evapotranspiration, runoff, and infiltration as the key outputs. Most drainage basins drain into the ocean, and they're called exarrheic, but some, like those ending in inland depressions, are called endorrheic or closed basins. Infiltration refers to water soaking into the soil, and the rate depends on soil type. Clay absorbs water more slowly than sand, leading to higher surface runoff. Vegetation increases infiltration by slowing water flow and creating channels through roots. When rain exceeds soil absorption, water moves over the surface, while Throughflow moves water laterally through the soil. Baseflow, the steady trickle of groundwater, keeps rivers flowing during dry periods. Groundwater is stored in aquifers, permeable rocks like sandstone or limestone, which recharge through precipitation or artificial input. In dry regions, aquifers may be non-renewable, limiting water supply. Systems approach. Think of a drainage basin like a bank account with inputs and outputs. Rainfall is income, rivers and evaporation are spending, soil and groundwater are your savings, and water moving through the basin is how money flows. River discharge is the volume of water passing a point in a river each second, measured in cubic meters per second. Discharge is calculated using a simple relationship, taking the cross-sectional area multiplied by velocity. In other words, how big the river is and how fast the water moves. Flow speed is controlled by physical factors. Steeper gradients increase gravitational energy and accelerate flow. Smooth channels reduce friction so water can flow faster, while rough beds, boulders, and vegetation slow water down. Narrow channels and rapids increase velocity by limiting contact with the bed and banks. Finally, rivers with a higher hydraulic radius, which is more water relative to wetted perimeter, flow more efficiently and therefore faster. We'll go through hydraulic radius in a bit. Take a look at the Bradshaw Model. It's an eye-clean diagram and a simple way to understand how rivers evolve from their steep, rocky sources to their wide, gentle mouths. Rivers aren't static. They change as they flow from source to mouth. At the source, channels are narrow and shallow, slopes are steep, and friction slows the flow. The river carries large, coarse particles, gradually breaking them down through attrition and abrasion. Further downstream, tributaries and runoff swell the river's volume. Channels widen and deepen, friction drops, and water speeds up. Erosion smooths the riverbed, and the load becomes finer, allowing the river to transport more material with greater energy. By the time it reaches its mouth, the river's velocity and discharge are at their maximum, shaping the landscape and delivering sediment to the sea. Hydraulic radius. Think of a river like a pipe filled with water. The cross-sectional area is how much water it holds, and the wetted perimeter is the part of the channel touching the water, the bed and the banks. Water slows down when it rubs against these surfaces. The hydraulic radius, simply the area divided by the wetted perimeter, measures this efficiency. A big hydraulic radius means lots of water with minimal friction. The river flows fast. A small radius means shallow, wide channels and slower flow. The ideal of efficiency is a semicircular channel, where water flows most efficiently. Not super important, but turbulent flow is chaotic and swirling, often seen in meanders and riffles, while laminar flow is smooth and layered, found in slow-moving, shallow channels. The type of material in a river's channel changes as you move from the upper to the lower course, affecting erosion and channel shape. In the upper course, the channel is often made of resistant rocks such as granite and basalt, which slow erosion, making for solid riverbeds. Moving into the middle course, the material becomes softer with finer sediments than the upper course, such as sand and gravel. These materials erode more easily than rock from upstream, and gives rise to features such as bars and meanders. And by the time you reach the lower course, you find silt and clay, which are loose sediment and easily transported and eroded further. This allows rapid reshaping of the channel. Abrasion occurs when sediment rubs along the riverbed and banks, breaking them apart. Attrition happens when rocks and sediment in the river collide, come into contact with each other, and the constant contact leads to smoother pieces, like a sandpaper effect. This process gradually reduces sediment size along the river's course. Solution, or chemical erosion, happens when river water dissolves minerals in rocks such as limestone or chalk. It works slowly but continuously, shaping the channel over time. Hydraulic action is the force of water against the riverbed and banks, breaking off small pieces of rock. It is most effective in fast-flowing or turbulent sections of the river. Now, to link these erosion processes to the materials we just covered, the type of material in each river course affects how each process works. Erosion is influenced by several factors. Load is important because heavier and sharper particles increase erosion. Velocity also plays a role, since faster water has more kinetic energy, allowing the river to pick up, move, and smash particles, which increases erosion. Faster water also picks up larger sediment, which will boost abrasion and attrition. Gradient plays a role, since steeper slopes lead to faster water flow, which increases erosion. Geology affects erosion as well. Softer rocks like sand and gravel erode more easily. The pH of the water can also speed up erosion. Acidic water speeds up chemical solution. Human impact also has an effect. Deforestation removes trees, exposing soil and making it easier for water to wash it away. Dams trap sediment upstream, which leaves downstream water with more energy to erode. Finally, bridges and channel modifications can change flow patterns and increase local velocity, leading to more erosion. Deposition happens when a river loses energy and can no longer carry its load. The main causes are, first, a shallower gradient, which reduces velocity and energy, or when the water level drops. The river becomes shallower, and the flow of water spreads over a wider area of the bed, because the water is more spread out rather than deep. This means the water interacts with the riverbed more along its width, increasing friction. The friction is what slows the water down and leads to deposition. River processes also change with the seasons. In wet or monsoon periods, rivers flow faster and transport more sediment. When discharge drops, that load is deposited. Glacial rivers show this clearly. High spring meltwater erodes and transports material, but as flow falls, sediment is deposited, reshaping braided channels. Humans can accelerate this process. Large dams trap sediment upstream, increasing deposition, while downstream rivers erode more aggressively because they are starved of load. A floodplain is the wide, flat land beside a river that floods during periods of high discharge. When the river overflows, it deposits fine sediment across the valley floor, gradually building a flat and fertile floodplain. A waterfall forms over millions of years. When a river flows over a layer of hard rock resting on top of softer rock, the softer rock erodes faster due to the force of the water, hydraulic action, and the abrasive power of the sediment, abrasion. Over time, the softer rock is worn away, creating a steep drop. As the water flows over this drop, it continues to erode the bed beneath it, deepening the plunge pool at the base and further wearing away the soft rock. The waterfall itself is the result of the difference in erosion rates between the hard and soft rock layers. A levee is a raised bank along the edge of a river, and it is formed by repeated flooding. As water spreads out, it slows down and deposits sediment. Coarser materials settle closest to the river, while finer materials are carried further, gradually building up the levee. A delta forms where a river meets a standing body of water and loses speed, dropping the sediment it's been carrying. Deposition is strong because the river carries a lot of sediment. Saltwater causes particles to clump together, and plants help trap the sediment. Deltas can be arcuate, with smooth curves, or bird's foot, with finger-like projections. A meander is a bend in the river, typically found in the middle and lower courses. It forms when small variations in the river channel cause water to flow unevenly. The water flows faster on the outside of the bend, eroding the outer bank and creating a river cliff. On the inside of the bend, the water slows down, leading to the deposition of sediment and forming a slip-off slope. If you've stayed with me to this point, thank you sincerely for your support. I began this channel to share and promote my notes, resources I've carefully developed to be clear, comprehensive, and rich in key points and case studies. I truly believe you'll find them valuable, and I hope you can purchase them to support me. However, the level of support so far is insufficient to sustain the time and effort required to continue producing this content. Currently, only a small percentage of my viewers are subscribed. Also, the returns do not reflect the work invested. I am actually providing tutoring services, and this takes up too much time. As a result, I'll be moving away from providing free materials. All notes, including option A, will now be available exclusively for purchase. Thank you again for your understanding and support.